I'm John Skinner, and this supports Chapter 3 in my book Striper Pursuit, and you can learn more about the book at striperpursuit.com. One of the subjects of this video will be this Tsunami Talking Popper XD. It's a little extra heavy. It came out in 2016, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. All right, I'm just getting started here, getting my camera adjusted. This is actually right after Tropical Storm Hermine came through the area, just as the waters calmed down. And one of the things that a storm like that can do is, get the action going. And I've been fluke fishing all summer. This is still summer. In fact, it's going to go up to 90 degrees this day. It's a really warm day. So in a way, you're looking at my first cast of fall here, because I've been focusing on fluke, but in the wake of the storm, I wanted to get out on the open beach, and boy, it's nice to see something work the way it's supposed to, and that's what's going to happen on this trip. In the wake of a storm like this, there's a good chance fishing will pick up, and it certainly did on this trip. I had action right from the start. Now, this first fish, I really believe that this was a bluefish, and I'm not going to find out because I'm going to lose it. You can see the sun just starting to come over the horizon. Okay, so there it is. I've lost this fish. Even though I'm way closer with the plug now, I decided to get the plug going again. Now, when this fish hits, a lot of times you can pick up some color, and I saw quite a bit of brown on this hit, and it to me looked like a bass. Not much size, but still at this point I'm under the impression the first fish that I lost was a bluefish, and this fish here, pretty sure it's a bass. And okay, so first cast of fall, if I want to call it that, and I'm going to lose two fish on it. And then the funny thing is I hardly lose anything the rest of the trip. So if you notice there, I made a short cast. I didn't throw all the way. I threw maybe halfway because I really felt that I may have a better shot at stripers in close. And again, I hooked up right away. I do not see fish busting. They wouldn't show up on the camera anyway if they were a little ways off, but I don't see anything breaking water. But you can see there's some birds overhead, so this is all looking great. You see the beach is pretty empty. I've got one truck down there near that point, and that angler is just on the other side of the point. Not a lot of people trying yet. It's really early. Like I said, the weather's actually disgusting, and the dew point's about 73 degrees. It's very, very humid. It's very warm. But this is looking fine to me. This is a great start. And you won't see much size in this video. In fact, this is going to be the biggest fish I catch on this trip. But for just getting started, I'm quite happy with this. So watch what happens here with this warmer water. Oh, that fish didn't go. That's very surprising. So I'll hustle right back in there. I know the fish is in good shape, and there it is. And it had a great kick, but it needed a little bit of help, and I think that's because the water temperature is about 73 degrees. So it's something to be concerned about. You want to get these fish in pretty quick, and give them a little help getting off. Okay, then I went one or two casts without a fish. And so I'm just moving just a few feet down the beach, trying to stay a little bit more in the choppy water. And this is the south shore of eastern Long Island, early September. And this video is going to be a little longer than most of the ones I post. I'm going to take 58 minutes of fishing, crunch it down to about 22 minutes, so you'll get to see a fair amount of action. As is often the case when the weather's still warm, this was an early bite. You can see where the sun is, and they hit well for an hour or so. And there was a pick of fish after that. I stayed for about another hour and kept catching, but much slower at that point. And, the one nice thing about an early bite is you can go to work and not worry about leaving fish on the beach. So the rod is the same 9-footer that I use in so many of my videos, the 10-foot Lama Glass, the GSB 120 1L 10-footer, and I built it by cutting 1 foot from the butt, made a 9-footer out of it. The reel is a Penn Slammer 3. It's a 6500, and at the time that this video is being published, it's just ahead of when this reel is going to hit the market. And I've been using this thing for a few months, and I love it. I think this is going to be a huge hit. The reel is very well sealed. In a previous video, I messed up, ended up in the water. The reel got dunked very heavily, got submerged. I opened it up. There was no water inside. Machine gears, just extremely smooth. You know, my only thing I would wish is that they would make a bailless model, but so far, you know, I don't know that that's in the cards. But I have to say, I've been using it a lot. The bail hasn't been an issue. It's a good bail. But I think when this reel comes out, it's going to be a huge hit in the surf, and probably out in the boats as well, because it's you know, it's just something that can handle spray in a lot of water, and just spectacular so far. Okay, I want to elaborate on the plug. So it's a Tsunami Talking Popper XD. I love the Tsunami Talking Popper 6-inch. It's one of my favorite plugs. And a few years ago, I posted a video that showed how I take that plug, drill a hole in it, inject some water to make it a little bit heavier, and it would be even a longer casting plug. I mean, the plug right out of the package is excellent. By adding a little bit of water, I could get more distance out of it. So now Tsunami's come out with their XD version of the Talking Popper, and this is a little bit heavier. It's an extra weighted plug for extra distance, so I don't need to go drilling on these plugs anymore and adding water, because they're coming from the factory. This other model, a little bit heavier. These things cast like a bullet. But the great thing is they managed to add weight to this plug without killing the action. The action is fantastic. You're seeing how well it works on this video, and you know, even though I started off wanting to get some decent casting distance, of course, but then I've been short casting a little bit. But the plug is just, you know, very good action. The fish respond well to it. You know what I like about fishing a plastic plug is right here. I mean, this is a decent bluefish, and anybody who has fished the nice pricey wood plugs with the bluefish around, they know what the result is. The plugs get all chewed up. So it's great to be using a plastic plug when you've got some bigger bluefish around. So there's a real indication of how warm the weather is. It's just too warm for waders. I've got my flats clothes on. A week before this, or just before the storm, these are the clothes that I use for wading bars for fluke casting. But yeah, it's working out great on the beach because it's just a really warm morning. So I mentioned the rod and reel. The line that I'm using is 30-pound test spider wire ultracast Invisibraid. For many years I've used spider wire stealth, and this is spider wire 8-strand braid, and it's just very smooth, excellent casting, and it takes me a lot to move away from a line that I have confidence in. But I've been using this one now for about a year, and I find myself really favoring it because it's just a little bit better performance. So those are Tsunami pliers. They're pretty inexpensive. They've been holding up okay for me, although I do take care of them. You know, I spray them down with some fresh water after each trip, and I think I've hit them with WD-40 maybe one time, maybe twice. So far, so good. So these plugs look a little different than standard pencil poppers, but as you've seen, I'm using a pencil popping technique with these. And if you'd like to see more about pencil popping, I have numerous videos on my channel that describe the technique in great detail. So even though I'm not doing much in the way of size on this trip, still pretty encouraged because the striped bass fishing in the Northeast has been somewhat off a little bit the last few years. So fisheries or conditions that used to be pretty dependable have become much less so. So to come out after the storm when you would normally expect to have fish and then actually find fish, this is encouraging for sure. So I think I had 3 legal fish on this trip. That first one for sure was well over the 28-inch minimum limit. This is another one that's would be beyond 28 inches, and it's hard to tell with the fisheye distortion on the lens, but this one I could have kept also. I just released them all. I have nothing against people keeping stripers to eat, but I really prefer to eat the fluke, and I have a lot of fluke fillets vacuum sealed in the freezer, so these guys I'll let go. Now, one of the things that often happens in this area when you get a storm in September is that it will push mullet out of the bay, and mullet are very temperature sensitive. As soon as it gets a little cool, they make a run for it, and they're a great bait fish and will often spark some good surf fishing activity. That's not the case here. It's just too warm. The mullet did not move. I'm not seeing any larger bait fish. The only thing I'm seeing are some very small bait fish. I'm not even sure what they are. Maybe anchovies. It's hard to say. But I'm not seeing any larger baits. So this is going to be a rather interesting cast here. It really appeared to me that I had 2 fish on this plug because there was a lot of thrashing and it just didn't look right. And you can't really pick it up on the camera, but I could see it. And then all of a sudden, it's like boom, right there. Suddenly the fish got smaller. I didn't have all that weight. And then when I brought the fish in, the fish is hanging off the middle, off the belly hook, as many fish often do, especially bass, and the tail hook is gone. Now, a feature of this plug is that they put a nice VMC single Siwash hook on the back of this plug. It's got a little bit of a feather bucktail tied to that, and everything looks good. I mean, that's that plug, the eye on the hook is closed tight, and it was closed tight, but that hook's gone. It came off, and what I'm pretty sure happened was I did in fact have 2 fish on the plug at the same time, and this is something I've had happen. Anybody who surf fishes a lot has probably had that happen to them at some point. And I think the 2 fish attached to the plug at the same time, the one on the back hook had a lot of leverage to be able to twist and must have opened that eye up just enough to get that hook off. Because I looked at this bass and saw no indication that it was hooked by the other hook, and I didn't see the hook attached to the fish in any way. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened. 2 fish, 1 twisted, and got that tail hook off. So that's it for this plug for this trip. So now you got to look into the surf bag. Plenty of Tsunami talking poppers in there. I also have a few metal lips, and a number of times I thought to myself I should go throw a metal lip because the fish were close. But I was doing fine on the popper, so I didn't switch over. All right, so the plug I just grabbed there is not one of the XD versions. It's a regular Tsunami talking popper, not the heavier model. And the reason I switched to that was, I've been short casting in most of the time here, so I didn't think the distance was all that necessary, and it took a couple of pops there, and that plug got hit as well. And that fish came off, but then got the plug working again, and the plug was getting hit pretty well and hooked up again. And the fish ran just about straight at the beach, so I'm like cranking like crazy here to try to maintain pressure on it. Just another small bass. So I'm not too much into all the different plug colors. The one exception is using a blue plug like this when the mullet are around, and as I mentioned, they're not quite coming through yet, but I expect the next cold snap after this trip that there'll be some mullet in the surf, and then that plug right there on the sand, that's definitely going to be one that I'll be throwing. And you can see another second truck did come down the beach with a couple of anglers a little bit east of me. It's a weekday morning, so it's there's just not a lot of people on the beach. So I went a few casts without getting any more fish on that plug, and I decided I wanted to go back to one of the XD long cast models and be able to work some of the water that's further off. And part of the reason is that as it's getting lighter, the fish are moving further off the beach, and I need a little bit of extra casting distance. And this plug is one that I've replaced the factory hooks with 3.0 VMC 6X strong hooks. So these are really extra heavy duty hooks. The reason I do that is that I often use these plugs in rocky areas where I have to put a lot of pressure on the fish, and the fish often run into the rocks, and those extra strong hooks help keep me from having to worry about straightening the hooks out. The hooks that come with this plug right out of the package are excellent. I'm just looking for a little bit of extra strength so I don't have to think too much about straightening hooks. Alright, I've said just about everything I wanted to cover on this video, so I'm done narrating. Now there's still about 5 minutes or so left. Watch a few more fish being caught. And I hope you found this useful, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to my channel.